fight. This is sort of like the epic of mid, right?
If you guys want to get really good at League or get high ranked at League, then you should try hard more in solo queue. You should focus more on yourself instead of your teammates. A good tip to get high rank fast is to one trick. So if you play 1 or 2 roles, get a couple of champs on both roles and just keep playing them and get as good as you can on them. Because if you're stuck in silver or if you're stuck in gold and you only play Katarina, then you can watch some challenger players play Katarina and you can see the improvements already and try to do the same as them. And if you only play a couple of champions, then it's gonna be faster to learn those champions instead of playing 10 at the same time. It's gonna take a long time.
And Riddle make a statement as they absolutely demolish Godsend.
We're into our third game of the day, Riddle versus Singularity. Now, Singularity, they are locked into relegations. This cannot change. This has actually been the case for the last 2 weeks. But Riddle, the stakes are pretty important here. If Riddle don't win this, they cannot contest first against XL. So if they lose, they give up first slot, and essentially they give XL that position. So for Riddle to continue to compete at the top of the table, this is a must-win for them.
Yeah, not only that, they can also force a tiebreaker. If they lose, they can be forced into a tiebreaker with Nordvin, so there's also that in the stakes. But coming into it, I'm not too worried about Riddles here. They're playing against Singularity, and although Singularity have been looking dangerous, I'm not too worried about Riddle. They are on the upswing, and I think they will take it today.
Yeah, we're going to look at Riddle's streak at the moment, having beaten Exile and Nordvind in pretty decisive fashion. And I think we've seen Senkux, and particularly Maxi, really be a massive driving force for them. My concern here is when we look to the side of Singularity, we've seen Scoot have some rough games when he stepped behind. And although we've only had 1 game from Galul, he did play that cast in. It was more for scaling, not a priority mid laner. I have big concerns about how they're going to match up against Riddle in this game.
I think we need to start off with Riddle and kind of the way that they've looked, because realistically, the story for Riddle over the last few weeks has been Riddle reborn, right? Riddle has become a team that went from something that weren't living up to their expectations. They weren't as good as the sum of their parts, and they have become the sum of their parts and better, if you will. Over the last few weeks, we have seen a completely revitalized Riddle roster, and I'm where is that driving force coming from?
I mean, you can talk as much as you want to about every player just stepping up, but I think in general, it's coming from the mid lane. Senkux is the main guy really showing up, especially on a pick like Twisted Faith. He's been phenomenal at actually playing the map. And not only that, through his pressure in the mid lane, he's freeing up Maxi in the jungling. And by doing that in turn, they have tremendous pressure on the rest of the map. And they suddenly started to put that pressure on top with Doxy, who suddenly seemed like a really good top laner. And that's not a lot we usually see in the league, where top laners start to take over the game. And that puts Doxy even more at an advantage up on top of that top lane.
And we've had some concerns about the bot lane for Riddle, and I don't think they've kind of been quenched completely, but I don't think they need to be. They've shown that they can hold defensively. They've shown they did that in that first matchup against XL, and ultimately this team is just so good at playing around those solo laners. I like to see a bit of difference, particularly when we think about who is going to beat Fnatic. I think Riddle could be the team to do so. I think matching up against them, I think playing through the solo laners could favor them, because bot lane hasn't been a great avenue against the likes of Fnatic. They're pretty good at playing a defensive role there, so potentially that's where we could see them find success. But ultimately, either way, they want to get the best seeding for themselves in playoffs. If they do meet up against Fnatic, it's in the second round, not first round, if possible. And this game is one they need to win if they want to keep that first place spot alive.
And remember, when you're chasing, you also have to think, okay, does our opponent play for? And Singularity pretty much right now are playing for pride and maybe some revenge in ruining your seeding. And also they need to prove that as a team, they can pull off these wins. Now, I know that it's looked a little bit shaky all over, but I don't necessarily think that their score reflects their performance so far. There have been a lot of times where they were able to snowball the early game, and this is not necessarily what they were relying on, but this is what worked best for them. So they managed to get the lead, but they were never able to close out. Now it's a matter of time to show that with a new mid laner, same as M&M did, they can actually get the lead and close it out.
So, just to set the platform for the viewers to know what to expect coming into this, it's Riddle versus Singularity. Is this as one-sided as it feels on paper?
I mean, to me, it kind of is. I know the rest of the analyst desk are firm believers that Singularity might be a good team, but I've seen too many fundamental mistakes. I've seen much individuality taking the games from Singularity. And when you're matching up the players from Singularity against the players of Riddle, I just don't think they stand a chance.
I agree, but I will also disagree with the fact that we've seen Riddle being in the top 4 of a lot of teams, being the main contenders for the title as well, and even to go up against Fnatic, and then they were failing on the simplest tasks in game. And this is where I think if Singularity can get an edge, it would be this sort of surprise early game skirmishes where Riddle have not accounted for. This is where you could catch them possibly off guard.
And I think that's the thing, is that Riddle haven't been flawless. And although I say this is heavily favored towards them, it's not an even matchup, there is potential. And that's because Riddle have shown that they like to play quite skill-expressive gameplay. If the solo laners do have a bad game, they suffer heavily. And it's similar for Singularity in the fact that they like to play around challenging in how good they are on their champions. So when you have two teams that match up like that, if Riddle have a bad day and Singularity have a good one, there is a win condition. If they outplay them, they can find the avenue to come out ahead, because it's not like the safe gameplay we see from Fnatic or potentially Excel, where it's quite hard to find an advantage. This is a situation where Riddle are a bit coin flippy. Now, they do have a weighted coin. It does tend to land on their side more than not, but it means there is an avenue to approach. So yes, Riddle favored, but not without hope for Singularity.
I think I would have agreed with the entirety of that statement 3-4 weeks ago, but now with the form that I've seen from Riddle, with the sense that and I think it's because they actively marked it. You know, they actively marked the change, right? You know, they came out and said this is us revitalized, and since then has been a completely different team. You know, I think almost more than anything, it's massively Riddle favored. But, you know, look, we need to go to draft and just start this game off. We need to sort of let the teams do the talking from the very get-go. We'll be after a break and we'll come back into draft and we'll start it off.
time to make a start. We can't stay where we are, my love. This is our one chance to chase the sun.
Draft for our third game underway. A Riddle on the blue side, Singularity on red. And off the bat, Scoot getting targeted a little bit here with the Lee Sin ban straight away.
And it makes sense, right? Because the one win that Singularity have found in the tournament had been through individual performances and people shining on champions that they feel very comfortable with. And the Lee Sin for Skode is one of them. The Nidalee is another. I wouldn't be surprised if that third ban is targeted towards him as well, because I felt like it was all generated through the jungle for Singularity.
And I think this is an interesting development we've seen from some teams where the blue side will heavily ban targets. Like the Lee Sin and the Nidalee are not common bans in the first rotation. Singularity end up banning specific power picks, but it means that Riddle essentially are going to be left with a power pick open and available. We still got the Ashe, we still got the Ezreal, we still got the Volley Bear, the Set available as first picks for them. Azir, Syndra as well. And it basically means you're guaranteed to get something with priority. And there's not much Singularity can do to respond. Yes, they can take power picks in that second, third rotation, but Riddle get the first choice.
But something they're all good at, the champions you just mentioned, is this skirmish kind of style. And if there's something Maxi wants to do, it's get in there and get his own lead after being facilitated through a laner. So if you can get that Volley Bear on the side of Maxi, it's going to be a fine first pick for them too. Pair it up with a Twisted Fate later, and you might just have the perfect cocktail.
So we've got first pick waiting to come through here for Riddle. We'll see what it is. Been a lot of priority
waiting on that first pick.
It's Volley Bear. It's like
wow,
it's been Volley Bear all day.
Again. Who would have seen that coming?
Yeah.
I don't think any of us expected that.
It's Volley Bear again.
It makes it interesting to see what Singularity get answer with, because there is a variety of picks that have available to them. But again, that TF Volley Bear super threatening with all of the skirmish power it can offer. You need something that's going to be able to match that, or at least contest mid priority if you're going to hand those over. For now, though, we're seeing the Bard come out for only 35, so could potentially see an Ezreal paired up with that, something that can go alone in the bot lane, even something that can contest priority heavily, just so the Bard can get some freedom of movement. If they do go for that Twisted Fate and the Volley Bear, I would like to see the Bard move up to try and get control of mid lane and stop the roams from happening before they even start.
I might be completely mistaken about this, but didn't you mention yesterday, Scoundrel, that Bard did have 100% win rate in our league in ERLs?
Pretty sure Bard had only over 3 games, but yes, 100% win rate. 100% win rate in the ERLs so far, with Senna having a ridiculously low win rate.
So not the biggest sample size, and we know here with the Azir pick coming in, we have seen a Twisted Fate being picked into when they Riddle played versus Nordman, the exact same matchup came through there.
And with the Azir being locked in, I would expect to see something even like the Aphelios being locked in here together with a Thresh. You sort of want to play the range versus the Azir, and when you have the right Gans, you can do that. Although I'm thinking that if they do choose to go for the Aphelios, then Singularity are gonna grab over the Ezreal for them. It's really good at staying on your own in lane. You can play behind the Azir and behind his soldiers as well from distance, but Riddle are not gonna allow this because they're smashing for themselves.
Yeah, I think my concern with taking the Aphelios would be, despite the fact you have the safety of the Thresh, it's very difficult to get on to get into a team fight where you're doing DPS against the likes of a Azir and an Ezreal together. So I think them picking up the Ezreal makes sense in that regard. They're limiting the effectiveness of that combo that's really started to show a lot of teeth in the current meta. But it seems like Singularity have something to work out. They're going to take the Caitlyn. They're still going to play for those long ranges. They have the Bard as a support to keep their distances. Right now, Riddle needs some more options to match up that backline of Singularity, and for Singularity, I want a front line that can facilitate them.
I think just stylistically, we're actually looking at a Singularity comp that I wouldn't say is completely individual driven. It's actually a team composition that seems kind of easy to execute coming in here. You got some easy rotations already now coming in with a Bard. You got the long range you get from Caitlyn and Azir. So there's actually a lot to work with, where earlier we have seen that Singularity just heavily focused their own jungle and just getting Scoot on a priority target. So this is a new form of Singularity.
And this scary thing is we've seen a top-driven Singularity so far, and they usually, even if they pick the bot lane, they abandon their bot lane. You can't abandon a Caitlyn lane. You usually take her from lane to lane to lane, taking plates, taking towers. If that doesn't work out for you early game, I feel like Caitlyn falls massively behind, especially versus an Ezreal that spikes onto items.
Yeah, I think we saw that earlier with the amount of plates and gold generated from the Caitlyn our first game of the day, and she still wasn't able to close out. She has that big mid-game power lull. It's just a huge trough that she goes through in the mid-game and starts to spike again later when you get towards the end. It's a Kassadin and a Orianna ban, and a Kha'Zix and a Kayle ban coming through here. Let's see what Singularity take. Maybe looking for that counter pick in top. Like you said, they do have options to play through top side with Flaxis. She's kind of been known as one of the more sort of bruisery type 1v1 top laners that we have in the league. And so it looks like it's going to be a Olaf locked in here for Singularity.
So it offers a lot of skirmishing power in this situation, but ultimately for me, I think Set would have been a great pick because it's also a flex in this scenario. So essentially you have a bit of wiggle room depending on what you want. But I think it's not really in Scoot's wheelhouse. We haven't seen him playing. He's more comfortable in the Olaf, and ultimately it has that early priority that we're looking for. Although it doesn't offer the CC really to peel for your backline, they have that themselves. You essentially want to give a lead over to the Caitlyn and the Azir, and then those team fights, play and use your range effectively. I do think they may need a little bit more front line coming out from Flaxish. Maybe something that's a bruiser that can offer some damage, and then you and the Olaf can pair up to cause disruption. But we'll have to see. We now have the Corki locked in for Riddle, so they have a strong backline that can match against Singularities.
And that's what I'm thinking here. Now you got the front line yourself. You got the Kayle ban out of the way. So obviously you're looking for a tank yourself. You go in here with Dion, which is, just one of the best frontliners you can get. And then you got the Volibear, you got Dion, and now you have some Corki and Ezreal in the backline together with the Dark Passions from Refresh. I really like the easy to execute composition coming up from Riddle too.
I actually think the Alawi would be good here. I know Flaxish is really solid in the champion, played it for a long time before anyone else really picked it up. But actually not even seen any that. We're seeing the Zillion come out. So playing that into the Ornn specifically, I think, as a top laner who essentially you're going to be able to remain at range from the Ornn, not be very interactive. And then when it gets later in the game, you're essentially providing that extra scaling element. Yes, Ornn scales well, but Zillion really amplifies what these carries are trying to do. You have a lot of support for the Olaf and the movement speed, and it makes it almost impossible for Riddle to play forward and try and capitalize. I think it's a really interesting comp coming out from Singularity. A lot of tools, but might be tricky to execute.
I'm a little bit scared for Singularity because I'm seeing a scenario where Scooter starts running in to reach someone and doesn't get followed up by anyone because the Azir, the Caitlyn, the Bard, and the Zillion don't really want to be playing. They want to be kept at arm's length. They have the Azir to create that space for them, and Scooter will just turn around, look at them, be like, team? And he'll be like the only one, unless he wants to play around his own team, which then the Olaf kind of is like sort of a question mark for me, but it gives him the early skirmish power. I'm not sold. I'm sorry. I'm not sold on the Singularity.
I'm going to agree with Trouble. I'm not sold. Like, I love Dan's theory crafting breakdown. I love that he was really buying into it.
He was trying.
No,
I agree with that. I like that.
There's a thought process. There's a thought process there. Ultimately, I think you're right about the Olaf not fitting in. Set would have been much better in the situation.
Yeah.
But I think they saw what Riddle had and they went, we have to do something different because we've matched them head on. They're kind of just better than us. So they've approached it from an interesting angle. Ultimately, I think this will be either one way or the other for this team comp. It's either going to go really well or they're going to just hit a wall and just fall on the floor.
Singularity gets for you.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like Heckle and Jide. Heckle and Jide? I can't even.
Jekyll
Someone help me out there.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Castor's
I literally
taken
got the. I got Castor's taken away. Yeah, there we go.
What is wrong with you, mate? Question for me is Flaxish going to be able to clock block Riddle here? It's super important for Riddle to find this win if they want to stay relevant and actually look to catch up XL at the top of the standings. Singularity, they're playing upset. They have nothing to lose. They're in relegations. They're having a bit of fun. And like they were saying on the desk, it looked like Singularity weren't drafting for lanes or individual members. They were drafting as a team comp, and then they just threw a Zillion in on the end.
I think that they were drafting for a really specific window around the early game. Because if you think about like how Olaf is still a great duelist, yeah, Volibear is considered one of the strongest dueling junglers, especially for his pressure that he has on lanes. But Olaf is one of the few junglers who can try to match him or has some play around there. When you then pair him in tandem with something like an Azir, who's going to have lane priority, and then the bot lane you have a Caitlyn and a Bard, two of the most powerful laning champions, and then the roam potential for a Bard, I think what we're looking at for Singularity's comp, at least in the early stages of the game, or the initial 2 jungle rotations, is the control over the bottom side of the river. Hopefully getting an early Drake around that level 4 for the Olaf, hopefully teaming up with only 35, and constantly ducking and diving into Maxi's jungle and really running amok in there.
So I've got a question for you.
I've got an answer.
Okay. Zilean. Is he the clock or is he the man? Because I have the theory that Zilean is the clock that has just picked an old man up along the way.
And just strapped a dead body to him.
He could still be alive.
That's even more disturbing, I actually think. I'm gonna say the man. I think that's the fairy tale world I want to live in. I do like how the analyst desk, I almost called them the audience of our analyst desk, talked about, the Zilean into Ornn matchup. Typically it's a tank. I don't imagine Zillion's gonna have a lot of kill pressure there, but it's probably gonna be super obnoxious with his poke. Obviously more points into the abilities. As soon as he has level 3, he actually has really decent wave clear. He is gonna be really reliant on initial backs to make sure that he has the mana pool to constantly be dealing out poke and farming effectively. But otherwise, I think that Zillion's just gonna handshake on this lane with Doxy and say like, yo, mate, we're in a scale. Is that okay with you? Because I scale incredibly well, and I can actually make this Olaf relevant in the game with all of the utility that I can bring to this guy.
Yeah, I really like the amount of utility he brings, especially with the fact he's gone the Glacial Augment build. We saw it in the Cho'Gath mid in the last game, but you have a lot of slows. You can set up for the double bombs, the big stuns, a lot more efficiently, and like a lot easier to kind of land those skills once you got your Host Pipe and your Spooky Ghost. But for now...
Cost efficient.
What were you saying, sorry?
I was just like, it's the buy one, get one free of like build pass to go into GLP as well as into Spooky Ghost. It's so cost efficient. We saw Cho do it last game. I've seen even some Synders do it, so.
I love it when bards do that. They set the hot chocolate up, means Ghoul can go really aggressive in trades with Senkux and then just walk back, have a sip, and back to health.
I believe it's like 80 health first level. It's actually something like significantly high. And when you think about the fact that Bard already has really strong auto attacks, you don't necessarily need the Q, especially in tandem with a Caitlyn as your laning partner to be effective. So giving your mid laner a nice like extra free pot to start in lane to take hyper aggressive trades.
Yeah, it's really nice for them. Do take a little look at the jungle pathing for the moment. Maxi's done a full clear of his blue side and is moving southwards now through his
Same
jungle.
thing for Scood.
Scood has done a blue side and he has just gone straight up, but look at the pings and look at his location. He is setting up to potentially go in for a dive onto Doxy. Doxy's able to jump out of the double bombs, and I think that's going to be Scood just going for a crab instead.
One of the nice things at Olaf as a jungler is that he does have kill pressure all by himself, so he doesn't necessarily need a ton of setup. So at least this early on, Ornn would actually be under threat, but I'll hold it here, his mid lane.
Yep. It's an Azir. Stay
Really
with the
fun
shuffle
champion.
away.
Really enjoy that one. No, otherwise it's been pretty quiet. Like you were saying, full clears from both of these junglers. Attempted gank on top lane with some of the kill pressure that an Olaf can have on an Ornn this early on in the map, and then trading Scuttle. We're now going to reset as Krugkamp is respawned for Volley, Gromp is spawned for Olaf. So as I say that, Volley is actually heading top side map. So maybe he just wants to cover Ornn while he's that far overextended, waiting for his camps to spawn.
Highlighted though by the observer, you can see the vision for Flaxish has to work with. Maxi will get spotted out. I believe one of those wards just died out, so Maxi actually able to sneak past the vision now. So Flaxish does need to be a little bit careful, but Maxi really not feeling it. Flaxish still got the lane fairly far up in the fair up towards his tower, so he's just gonna look to scale up like you said at the beginning of the game.
It's still really interesting that Maxi pathed the way that he did. Yeah, his topside camps are just about to spawn, but that is still, pretty significant time wasted where he's just wandering around. I feel like he really was there to just cover Doxy on the wave, who this Ornn cannot seem to get this wave to crash underneath Cillian and get it bounced back safely. Meanwhile, Scood is like making time through this jungle, could have a gank top.
Instantly, Exhaust goes out onto Rai. The hook comes in for follow. Rai gets slowed down, and that's actually some summoner spells burnt by Singularity, and they're looking to try and see if they can take a chunk out of Riddle. Wendelboe goes pretty low, but is able to get towards the safety of the tower.
Yeah, obviously one of the nice things when you're Ezreal Thresh, especially before initial back, is if you can take hyper-aggressive trades like that, especially when you also have teleport, it's super beneficial because Caitlyn wants to itemize into that BF sword, if possible, on the initial back. Like, obviously with Stormrazor, she can try to pivot. As this is kind of what I expected from this comp with the priority from Azir and then constantly ducking into Maxi's jungle with Scoot with support from only 35. And I expect to see this repeatedly. There's also the early Drake access that Olaf gets because he can just solo that one out by himself. But kind of back to the trades of the AD carries. Ezreal and Thresh want to trade really aggressively here and try to force a bad back for take set.
Looks like he's trying not to give that up though. Maxi spots out the dragon. Scoot going a little bit low here. Should be able to get this. Stormbringer comes down and the dragon is just stolen by Maxi. Scoot goes low and First Blood's picked up. Takes that and looking to come over the wall with Maxi, and Maxi's going to go down. It's a 1-for-1, but the dragon is picked up in favor of Riddle, and now Senkux just firing out the damage onto Singularity. They are just going to have to go for the base. A great read there by Maxi.
I mean, we talked about it at the start of the game. It's the standard Olaf play, and like you said, if we know it, Maxi's going to know it. He decided to roll the dice. He had information that Azir, Bard, and Caitlyn hadn't rotated over to his jungle. He walks to the back of the pit, places the ward, and then flashes over and gets the steal. Now, ultimately, that won't necessarily hurt Singularity's composition a ton. It's not like they need to stack Drakes, but that one is going to hurt the Pride, definitely.
Yeah, that's a real feels bad, man, because Scoot put a lot of time into that dragon, only to lose it. And now Wonderbow and Maxi looking to hunt him down. He gets flayed back. The teleport's coming in. Only's there as well. Scoot going low, has to flash away from the Igniters. Galoo. Summoners drift to safety, but Senkux and Rai just run him down and half health him.
Meanwhile, top lane, it's also not going great. Disaster for Singularity. Like, the thing is Scoot should feel safe to walk into his river, but he keeps doing it without the support of his team. Walks into 2 members there. He's found himself now twice at a numbers disadvantage, and just getting bullied out. I think at this point, it's almost going to train him like, I cannot go in there, but he needs to wait for follow-up and priority from his lanes.
It's kind of typical Scoot, though. What we've seen a lot from him for across the season is if he gets ahead, he looks great, but if he falls behind, he makes a lot of questionable mistakes and over-eager plays.
But it's those types of plays on your screen right now, you know, as only 35 is flashing the Angry Bee. That's when Scoot needs to be pushing in with his Bard, but I think he's a little bit trigger shy now. Walked into river, got blown up, and now he's like, it's fine, I'm gonna farm my camps. Reset, walk topside. Hopefully we see the reset for the Herald, as the swap is actually faster from Shrimp and Windlebow here. Excuse me, Shrimp hasn't reset, just Windlebow.
I was getting really spooned out by what you were talking about when you were in Shrimp. That's right, isn't it?
Listen, I approach certain names and they're difficult for me to say, so I was like, what does that one translate to? I was told Shrimp. We've had this, I think we've already had this discussion
before. We definitely did have this discussion before. Completely caught me off guard there.
Sorry, it's my fault.
Shrimp is bot lane,
Shrimp.
while a larger crustacean gets picked up on the top side of the map.
Good segue. Nice save. Yeah, we expect this to go. I would actually love to see it go into Corki's hands, because I think Corki, obviously, super expensive itemization and feels a lot better on 2 items than I think any of these other champions. So I would like to see the Herald used for plate gold for Senkux personally. Maybe you unlock Senkux, spiral out into a side lane, and then use Herald on the back end of maybe like a picked up 1 fight as Doxy. It's not what you wanted.
Yeah, he's going to get slowed down. Ragnarok gets used as the Call of the Forge God. Knocks up Flaxish, but he has the ulti on. He's not going down today. And that is Singularity getting themselves a pick. But the Rift Herald is up in the top lane with Senkux.
I think they're just waving goodbye as a nice ultimate from Shrimp maybe tries to catch Zillion.
No, it's not close enough.
I think even if it hit him, it wouldn't have killed him, but obviously delays the back timer pretty significantly there.
Yeah, force Flaxish actually to step up and shove out the wave. That will mean Doxy's teleported to go make sure he doesn't miss out on the wave, and Blackfish might be able to hold his off the back of that. So overall, actually, Singularity kind of going a little bit up in the play there. It's the rower build for Blackfish first, so not actually going to get any of those items, but combine all that well with the Glacial Augment yet.
Yeah, just looking for more of a scaling-oriented Zillion build, which is kind of the nice thing. I know that LS over the LCK has talked pretty much at length about Zillion moving into support position when we saw him for a brief window of time, and just how valuable he is when Enchantress were running around because how much he does offer through scaling. And kind of like Karma, Zillion is obviously going to scale really well if you just, you know, give him raw stats to work with and everything that he's going to empower the team.
Senkok's actually defending that pink ward with his life, but isn't actually going to get too much off there.
I think he's just getting free chip damage, just slapping him around.
Only is doing what we wanted him to do, playing in the pocket of Scoot, and Tempered Face actually going to connect onto Tuath. They're actually teleporting the Zillion. There's the Emperor's Divide. The stun connects against the wall. Senkok's exhausted and only looks to chase for more. The Gatling gun's out, and in comes Maxi. Gets himself one, but it's going to be a big turnaround. 1-for-1 so far. Only gets himself a stellar stun off. And that's an angry B as he makes his way up. But the true shot gets the snipe. And Riddle go 2-for-1.
Huge ultimate there from Maxi to really turn it around. Singularity thought that they had found their moment. Now they still do have numbers advantage in terms of first access to this Drake, but I actually think they're trying to pick up some more kills in this mid lane. Nope, there we go. Caitlyn's finally turned on the actual objective and says, come on, Olaf, pay attention.
I think Scoot maybe, like you said, a bit trigger shy on doing that, but Maxi shows top lane, so with that, looks like the Dragons should just get picked up. It's one apiece. We are going to be looking at either a Cloud or Infernal Soul.
Give me Infernal.
It's Infernal.
Good.
That's
Okay,
be
here's
really
the Herald.
nasty with a Zillion.
Right into the pockets of Syncax. This is what we really wanted. Although Windlebow.
I thought that was pretty good by Windlebow, but it turns out they actually turn it around. Big call of the Forge Guard as Ghoul's able to find the kill with the Sand Soldiers, and Singularity just punishing Riddle's support for playing really, really greedy there.
Just one of those things also, like that would have worked against any other support other than Bard. That is just a Bard frustrating play. Now, Observer's doing a good job showcasing that while the Herald did get a nice charge down into the mid lane, Takes has gotten all of this solo gold and all of this solo experience down, as well as 2 plates to his name. You can see already BF Sword and Pickaxe, so looking closer to that Infinity Edge. And that's going to be pretty crucial to have those battle stats and the crit available for the next upcoming team fight, which will either be over, either second Herald spawn? I'd have to see the timer, or the Drake in 4 minutes.
I assume it's going to be the Herald spawn. I think that comes up fairly soon.
I didn't write down the time.
I
didn't do my due diligence. It's my fault. Of course, checking in on other itemization. If you guys missed what Ezreal's build path was, he went for the pickaxe first before grabbing the tier. Naturally, having the Muramana complete means it's easier to stack up now, or excuse me, quicker to stack up, as well as not losing any of his battle stats. You know, he didn't come back into the lane with a tier and try to fight this Caitlyn. So I say that though, Observer showcasing deep teleports.
Teleport's coming in, Ghoul looking for the shuffle, jumps in forward, went above a good flay back, and the hook lands onto Only. He's taken down. Trip gets the kill, and now Scoot not really willing to go for the tower dive. As I say that, pops the Ragnarok, and Ghoul just finishes up with the advance of the Sand Soldiers. A 1-for-1.
And finally, it looks like things actually went the right way for Singularity. I feel like countless times we keep seeing these plays, but they don't just come out quite as well as they want. And as I say that, oh no.
That's the heal burn for the flash from Maxi. Takes able to hold his flash.
Still a lot expended for not much gained, however. Now, that doesn't necessarily hurt either composition. We heard the analyst desk, and I'll just repeat it here. Both these team comps have scaling options and will feel fine to kind of, you know, take their foot off the gas and go into more cruise control for late game. So I expect kind of handshaking here until the next Drake or monster objective spawn, which is that Herald. As you can see, it's spawning on your mini-map there. But otherwise, things should be pretty calm outside of only 35 maybe catching someone.
I also want to quickly highlight the stakes for this game because, reminder, Riddle are 1 point away from XL, who are at the top of Group A. A win here keeps them in the race for first, which, crucially, helps you avoid Fnatic Rising, who are arguably the scariest team in the playoffs. Singularity just looking to play upset for now. They are out and in relegations.
So the short of it is shit got real. There's the Herald spawn. We talked about kind of that handshake there, but It's actually like a pretty extreme handshake, as Singularity aren't even going to go anywhere near that one. And I think that is actually a bit of an oversight. Now, obviously, itemization doesn't necessarily favor them because Azir's just sitting on Nashers. Is probably actually sitting on a bunch of gold. Maybe hasn't gotten a good chance to back yet. I feel like he should be stronger. No, he has spent. Wow, it's just the one completed item.
I do want to highlight something, actually, that Orcs has been highlighting me quite a lot with Corkies. Senkux did just have the package for that Herald spawn. But what that means is he's out of sync for dragon spawns. Most Corkies actually wait out for the first dragon and then use their package for that, so that they have the ability to threaten at the Baron Pit. Senkux is not going to have his package, so that's a really, really big tool for Riddle that won't be available at this second spawn.
I think he feels confident not necessarily having the package. It is something super cool to keep track of, but just because of the nature of their comp and the fact that they'll be really strong on 2 items approaching this next Drake, because obviously Caitlyn now has the Infinity Edge, also looking at the Zeal. I think just with the control and the poke from the Sheen on Corki as well as the Iceborne Gauntlet for Ezreal is going to be like a huge benefit. I think that the catch potential of Singularity is much stronger, so I think for this Drake to go Singularity's favor, they really need only 35 to find like some good CC. That's not it.
That's a good fancy dancing, though.
Otherwise, I think that Riddle can actually really slowly just force Singularity out of this with all of the poke tools that they have available.
Yeah, let's look at it. They are able to strong arm their way into this river. They've got the vision controller to work with. There is a ward on the back end of the Dragon Pit, but I don't know if a flanking Zillion is really going to be all that impactful. Scoot doing his best to try and clear through some of these wards, so they can kind of regain some control here, but they're not able to do so. Senkux taking a tool with Galul here. A trade with Galul here.
A tool? A tool with Galul? Is that how you say it? Here we go.
My brain just melted as I said that sentence.
May, it's 10 p.m. I feel you.
It's 9 for
here
me.
we go. Only 35. What you got?
He's going to get chunked out for the moment, and it looks like Singularity are just going to barrel roll their way in there. Scoot gets exhausted. Tempted face onto Dragon and takes that, trying to zone away for the moment. True Shot Barrage cuts through multiple members, and the Dragon is secured. Wendelberg, a massive hook into Flay combo. And this is just Riddle looking to mop up members left, right, and center. Singularity are sent packing.
And Riddle just make it look easy there. The fact that they were fighting on 2 different fronts, that Senkux was actually zoned out of the fight for the longest time, just trying to snipe with a couple of rockets here and there. You know, imagine if he was on the other side with his team and actually really helping. I think that was Singularity just falling flat on their faces. If Riddle were against a worse team, they would have gotten punished with that type of posturing around a Drake.
At the end of the day, though, Riddle do end up getting it. Let's have a little look at that once again, though.
So my eyes here are just on Senkux. You know, he's throwing some rockets, but he's not actually really participating with this fight yet. And if Singularity's composition had, you know, stronger engage, executed slightly different with kind of how they're layering their CC or the mechanics, again, I just think that that type of positioning from Riddle wasn't necessarily the best, and they hard won that team fight because they were stronger in terms of like the immediate item power spikes, but they also just more likely outplayed as individual players.
Also, it feels like Tateset's now hitting that Caitlyn power trough that we all know and love. So it's going to be a little bit weak for the moment. Well, right, this is these power spikes you're hitting on. Got the Iceborne, got the Mana in it. It's not fully stacked up, and Tateset probably just in for a little bit of hurt here. There is double teleports if they want to try and save him, but I think this is one doomed Caitlyn. Maxi actually flashes forward and Tateset will go down.
80 carries and just walking up to waves that they are not allowed to stand at. That has been the theme of kind of our last 3 games, if you will, as Tateset learns that one the hard way. Again, at this point in the map, you just talked about kind of the item breakpoints for Corki and Ezreal. There's those upgraded Mura manas, I think actually just ticking over. And at this point, you know, Riddle can just divide and conquer this map. They have the mobility and the power to fight in individual lane assignments and just constantly be pressuring Singularity. They're in the driver's seat right now.
Singularity, what do they need to do? What's the game plan for them to remain in this game?
Unfortunately, they're in a position where on their primary carries or their damage dealers, they still need to funnel a lot more gold. So they need to find safe farm zones for this Azir and this Caitlyn. You just talked, or you just saw, you know, takes that if he walks up too far to a wave, he just gets dove repeatedly. So I actually think he should be in the mid lane and Azir should be out into a side lane using some of that safety that the Azir kind of has built into his kit. But we'll see if Riddle actually takes that again into the side lane, and then just sit there for probably an item and a half before they feel comfortable. Meanwhile, Riddle's going to get closer and closer to the Infernal Soul. You know, they'll probably have free access to this next Drake that's going to be spawning in 2 minutes because Azir and Caitlyn won't have the item breakpoints then, so that should be free. But hey, it's Singularity, so they'll probably try to fight it anyway. If they do, they'll lose, and then it will be Baron, and then Riddle will have Baron, and then they'll probably close the game in, I'm going to say, about 27, 28 minutes.
I'm going to write that down. I'm gonna hold you to that. 20 minutes on the clock, and Senkux is going to be able to take down the last of the tier 1 turrets. Now cracking the map open a lot more for Riddle. And I do want to take this moment just to talk about the vision, because if we do actually just zoom out and look at the bigger picture, Singularity's warding is very defensive. It's in their side of the map. If we then flip over to the side of Riddle, they've got some more aggressive wards. They're further up into the jungle, trying to spot out members. This, first of all, means that when anyone's off in a side lane farming, they can see people moving through the jungle towards them. So Riddle just have a lot more map control right now.
Yeah, the key ward was actually the one that was just taken when the observers were showcasing the vision, which was the one that takes that cleared in the mid lane. Boom, you can now see that Singularity have placed their own ward where the previous blue ward was. That ward is super important for you guys' solo queue game because it's a high traffic area. By placing a ward down there, as soon as you take the enemy tower, you're able to catch the teams kind of moving to opposite sides of the jungle, as well as when they're trying to set up to find a pick or a big 5v5 fight on you in River. So make sure you're constantly warding that area on the map.
They're doing this? Oh, they're doing this.
Baroning. Riddle have no idea.
Takes this farming away in the mid lane, and Riddle, they smell something's up. The Scryer goes down. 3 members missing for way too long, and now the Call of the Forge got to punish. Doxy doesn't get caught out by the Tempered Fate as the Redemption will heal Singularity up, but Riddle just looking to tighten in here. Takes it, trying to join up with the rest of his team as Maxi may just run towards him. A 2-man knockout comes out by Doxy and only very, very low. Good shuffle back, but over the wall, Maxi jumps. Takes it, trying to pump the damage out. The package gets dropped by Senkux. He is so low though as Takes it is flashing away towards his tower, towards safety. It's a triple kill onto the Corki. Flash just teleports away, and Riddle just wipes Singularity off the map.
And that was a huge play by Senkux. Hits him with the thumbs up. Amazing play, especially around the vision on the brush. I'm pretty sure when he walked into the brush, Takes that lost vision of him, wasn't able to follow back, and it gave Senkux enough time on his cooldowns to get back into safety after picking up the triple kill. We thought that the fight would go over the Infernal. Instead, Team Singularity looked for the Desperation Baron. That now means that they're not in position to fight this Infernal, whether they wanted to or not, and we're that much closer to Soul. Maybe that extends the timeline for Singularity, because they're not going to wipe here immediately into a Baron, but we'll see by how much.
The Infernal's still so nice for Ezreal.
I mean, it's nice for everyone.
It's nice for everyone, but Ezreal uses it so efficiently. Let's have a little look at that pick once again, though.
Okay, so it starts off obviously with Maxi. Now my eyes are going to be on Senkux. Currently right now, Exhausted uses the package to separate everyone. Really nice AoE damage, then walks into this brush. Nah, I think actually Takes That might have had vision of him because he threw the auto attack from it. Maybe only lost it for a split second, but it was actually just a poor net placement from Takes That he was just actually outside of auto range.
Now it looks like Riddle are stepping up towards this top side of the map. They want to get some vision control over there. All can be seen on the ward that he's currently standing on. Riddle maybe looking for their fish, just trying to get a nice pick off and turn that into a Baron. Ghoul has to dash away from Doxy, who's running towards him.
Yeah, because like we were saying, Singularity didn't fight over the Infernal since they tried the Desperation Baron. It means that Riddle now needs to have the good old-fashioned way to get Baron, which is the triangle vision setup, where you place your triangle selection of wards in this brush. There we go, Observer showcasing, there we go, the perfect triangle. Then you're just fishing. Find the hook, slowly move on to the Baron. It's that simple.
The turret also going pretty low. Getting slowly sieged up.
At this point in itemization, Riddle can do whatever they want. It's not a question of if they'll win the game, it's win, they'll win the game. I'm actually curious how bold they're going to feel and trying to force some of these plays. I think that as soon as Senkux gets pulled down, maybe he's got 3 items right now. What more gold could he use? Like, stop farming Senkux. Just group up with your team. You're so powerful. He must be getting a BF sword.
Yeah, he's got enough. So that's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to get the BF sword. I don't think Senkux is even going to finish that Infinity Edge at the rate this is going.
No, they're just going to do the BF sword, and then they're going to group up. Now that Senkux is there, he'll actually join the team. And then at first moment, Doxy and Maxi are just going to run at people. Just whoever they could find. You see the ping on Caitlyn takes out, they're like, kill this. As soon as they see Bard, they're going to start pinging out, kill this shit.
Blackshish off in the bot lane as well, trying to catch these waves, but also needs to be relevant. Remember, doesn't have teleport. That's the key thing. If take set or only a collapsed onto, they don't have the Clockman to save them.
We're a single team fight away from disaster here, but Riddle are ready. What are Singularity going to give them? How cautious are they going to play this one to stall the game out as long as possible?
For me, it's very much a matter of seeing how clean and how confident Riddle can close this out at this point. If they want to contest versus XL at the top, they need to show us that they can do that.
I mean, frankly, they're being pretty greedy for their own individual farm. I mean, it's not going to hurt to force that wave right there, but I do think that Riddle could pressure a bit more here. Now, Doxy's out into a side lane, obviously has access to the TP with the unsealed spellbook. But at this point, I mean, Riddle probably like, it's fine.
There you go. You said kill it. Bard down. Shrimp
There's
kill.
one.
And now...
Azir's next.
As the legacy of Shurima, but you're running away from that as Riddle looked to chase in. Over the wall, Maxi goes and the flash through, throws out the Emperor's Divide, and Windlebow gets the flayback, so Senkux is able to capitalize on the kill. That's 2 for Singularity. 2 dead on Singularity, 2 for Riddle. Now Riddle probably can just start up this Baron. Already looks like Riot is the one to go start that up for the team.
So let's talk about kind of what Riddle needs to do. There we go. Doxy revealing himself from Fog of War. His only responsibility is to zone Scud away from this Baron. The team pulls off, they immediately turn. I like this. This is a clean setup. They're not chancing the 50-50 at all. They're just using the brute force power and their ability to play off of the Baron with the Dark Passage as well as the Valkyrie from Corki and make sure that there's no chance that Olaf's going to get a Miracle Steal.
And with the fact that they had to burn the Flash and the Chrono Break, not Chrono Break, I can't remember what his ultimate's called on Zillion.
The Bard ultimate?
No, Zillion.
It is Chrono Break, isn't it?
Chrono Break
no,
is
not.
Echo. That's Echo. What's
You
his
just
ultimate?
melted my mind!
Oh! Chrono Shift!
Observers!
Thank you!
Thank you!
You're a beast! It's Chrono something. That's why I got confused. It's been a while since I've seen a Zillion.
God bless Observer.
What was my point?
Favorite people. I don't know.
I can't remember. 5 seconds until Infernal spawning up and Singularity are grouping up.
They just want to fight. They don't care about the Infernal. It's just a cherry on top. Singularity, please. Run.
It's very much them going, this is do or die, but I feel like this is probably just die. The line of traps come down, but this is the power of the Infernal map. There's just a path to walk through. It's so close. Scoot is going to start this up. Dragon is stolen from Wendelbow's hook. Blackshish is zoned away and takes it, just flashes into Senkux. The Chrono Shift is used and only takes a magical journey to run away from his team as he joins back up the rest of the team. Senkux goes godlike and Galul is just zoned away. The Infernal Soul, way too much to deal with, and the exhaust is not going to stop Rai. He is way too fed. It's a double kill onto Senkux. And make it a triple. Riddle are just going to take the base, take the game. You were 2 minutes off on this one, Frost.
They didn't get to fight the Infernal. How could I have predicted that they would go for Desperation Baron? No, obviously a good cheeky attempt from Singularity, but Riddle just really smacking them with their wallets right now. This is 17-5. This is over a 10k gold lead. This is a very dominant form from Riddle, and this is what Riddle fans needed to see if they're going to continue to chase for first.
It's a solid start for Riddle as they try to catch up to XL at the top. just under 30 minutes on the clock. Riddle take the win over Singularity.
Again, super dominant performance. Each individual member really stepping up. I think it was a really well-balanced composition. Credit to Sencox in particular on some of those key fights with the Corki. I think the triple kill up in the top lane was really standing out to me. So just fun to watch. Riddle are fun to watch team.
Riddle are fun to watch. You highlighted that. I like the term slapping them with their wallets. They weren't slapping with their wallets. They brought the whole bank vault with them. That was a really, really fed Corki. And like you said, a bit greedy for farm, but in the end it worked out for them. And it was a controlled game from Riddle. Maybe it could have been quicker, but they knew this win was important to them to keep up in the race with XL. Now, guys, we are going to cut to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll have the analyst desk to break that game down. So we will see you after this break.
Yeah, so ultimately we see Riddle keep their first place chances alive by winning that game. If XL drop their match, Riddle get first place in the group. But if XL win the last match of the week, then they will still secure first. But ultimately, good moves coming out from Riddle to try and keep themselves alive in this, keeping their point lead and keeping themselves as close to first as possible. We saw some huge play coming out from Senkux in particular on the Corki, absolutely monstrous. And I think there was a bit of a skill disparity in this game that was quite evident.
And I feel like from the draft, there were too many things aligned that I liked from Riddle. The fact that the Owen had a very easy itemization into the Zillion and there was no contest. You usually will pick an Owen in the top lane if you need the hard engage, but you know you're most likely going to get counterpicked and suffer in lane. That wasn't the case. Emma was really easily itemized versus the Azir and the Zillion coming out of lane. I think he even had a Solari at the end of the day, so the Azir was not touching him at all. Then moving down, you have two carries that spike specifically on the exact same items. More mana into Trinity Force or Gauntlet, whichever you're trying to do. And it's so important having both of your carries spiking at the exact same time to want to take these fights. And then the cherry on top, 3 dragons stolen away from Singularity. I mean, Singularity's plan there was to try and steal away the wraiths away from Maxi, and Maxi was like, fine, you've stolen 3 camps from me, I'll steal 3 dragons, see who wins.
I think that's where it also goes down to the individual level, because honestly, that was a Drake that was set up, that was priority in the bot lane, and in any other world, it's fine for the Olaf to just start soloing that Drake, and all of a sudden, well, here's Maxi, here's the first part, and he just does it 3 times. There is actually a setup for these Drakes. It might not be probably played throughout the fight, but the setup was there from Singularity, the thought process, but in the end, Maxi was also just a superior jungler today.
And the thing is that I understand how Singularity haven't necessarily found the playstyle that they want to play, but when you draft for your bot lane, which they've done multiple times, yesterday they did the Ashbrom, today they're doing the Caitlyn. These are 2 lanes that need attention. Your Caitlyn needs to do what Trick's Caitlyn did, 14 plates in 14 minutes. And in all honesty, I felt like Texas was all alone the entirety of the game. He just couldn't play the game. He was continuously being dived throughout the entire game. And that Caitlyn, I don't know. I honestly wish I could see how much damage she did to champions because I don't think there was any at all.
Hopefully I'm back, guys. Hopefully people can hear me on broadcast. And I think really that feeds into what I was saying when I tried to open this segment, in the sense there was very little margin for error for the composition from Singularity. Like you put 1 foot wrong, you don't get a lead. Like you just don't function well in team fights outside of the sort of the one way that you can play them. Dan, we have a play of the game, so let's have a look at this play that you've selected for us, and we'll run through it.
So unsurprisingly, one of the plays of the game does include one of those dragon steals, but I just really like the approach coming out from Riddle on this team fight. You can see they actually give quite a bit of space over to Singularity initially. They use a lantern to disengage, and then they start on the dragon. Singularity really set on focusing on this, but if you watch, all their backline are kept at bay. Scoot's pretty isolated and alone here, and their backline's getting heavily poked out, and at this point, a great hook comes in from Wendelbow. The CC's instantly there to follow up. They have Senkux on one side, Ryan on the other side, and it's just like shooting fish in a barrel. Very nicely executed, and they still get the dragon because Maxi secures with the smite. And I think their Singularity a bit too focused on the dragon and not on the fight that was about to break out.
And it also aligns with what we said, I think, before the game, the fact that we were all a little bit starstruck that the Olaf was in there. It kind of felt like it was the last AD jungler in Skude's pool, if anything. And it felt like, you know what, guys, I'm just going to run in and then I'm going to look back and no one is going to be following me. And it felt like that was the exact problem of the composition right there.
It was very disjointed, and you guys did mention it before we went into game that Olaf just didn't seem to make sense, and well, quite clearly didn't make much sense because they ended up losing. We have an interview ready to go. Smeagol here joining me. Hello, can you hear me? I'm good, mate. How are you? Yeah, I mean, you're doing very well, obviously. You've kept your first place hopes alive. Oh, 1 second, just going to double check. Smeagol, can we hear you on...
Can you hear me?
Just unmute
All good?
himself. Hopefully we should be good.
Okay, perfect.
He's now
Sorry
muted
about
on
that.
Discord, just so I can get that cleared up. You're also, oh, there we go. I think we're good now. Double check.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
Yeah, good. No, don't worry, mate. I can't flame you. I'm somehow muted for the opening of this segment. So, you know, we've both made muting errors in this segment. Obviously, you keep your first place hopes alive. You are relying on an XL loss for that to happen, but realistically, you are keeping your first place hopes alive, which is really good. And the thing I want to kind of focus on is that there was a point where, and I believe I have always marked this with the Doxy tweet. Doxy tweeted out with, I think it was an Undertaker gif, but he basically tweeted out Riddle Reborn. And that was an actual defining marking point. And I don't think you've dropped a game since then. So what happened that week? Like what clicked to suddenly make Riddle like infinitely better and more consistent?
So I think we kind of were in a bit of a slump for a couple of weeks. And I think collectively, all the players and all the staff, we knew that we were underperforming, and people were kind of realizing we weren't at our full potential. So we all sat down. We had a couple of team meetings, had a couple of kind of changes to the backroom staff, and yeah, since then it's just we've been on the up and up. Shout out to Jambo. Can't really say who it is, but yeah, we've just went from strength to strength really. So fingers crossed XL drop that game and we can come first in our group.
Yeah, and do you know what? There's definitely a real chance. And even if you don't come first, it's quite clear that you're a strong contender. I do remember back when we started the league, we were asking all the players, all the teams, who are your top four? Like, who's the top four in the league? And it was always XL, Fnatic, Riddle, and Munster. And then over the course of the few weeks, you and Munster, you weren't looking so hot, and everybody was saying, well, maybe we misjudged, maybe we didn't quite get it right. I feel now you've come back to a point where you're like, yes, no, we are easily top four, and you know, we're looking for top two, maybe even top one. But the hurdle that you've got is Fnatic. That's the hurdle that everybody's got. If you want to be top one in this competition, it is Fnatic. What are your plans? Like, how do you plan on dealing with a team like Fnatic, who has seemingly been untouchable so far?
I mean, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to like leak, but
no, of course.
I think Dan is kind of probably Fnatic's biggest threat. He's the most consistent player, so we may look to target him. Who knows? But other than that, he's sort of the only player we're really afraid of because his consistency is, I mean, it's scary to be honest. Everyone else kind of has on and off performances. They can seem a bit hot and cold, but Dan is he's the real pillar of consistency in that team. So that's someone that we are keeping our eye on. But yeah, we're excited to play them if we get the chance to, and we think it will be a great series.
Do you know what? I'm very much looking forward to it, especially with the form that you guys are currently in. Look, Smeagol, thanks so much for joining me, mate, and a pleasure to talk to you. And hopefully we get to hear more from you in the future.
All the best. See you, man. All
the best, mate. And you know, it's nice to hear. Like I kind of never really got to the bottom of that switch moment for Riddle, but you know, it seems like it was some active changes that were made behind the scenes to really influence that. And I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from that interview, that it wasn't just a magic thing. There were actually active changes being made for Riddle.
I'm just really happy to see that teams specifically are prepping for Fnatic. You want to go into EU Masters, they are the team you need to beat to get there, because second best is never good enough when you're coming out of an ERL going into EU Masters. You need to be the best, and even the best teams are having a bad time. So I'm happy to see that a lot of the teams that we had in our top four and we see them performing really well are prepping specifically for that Fnatic matchup.
And do you know what? I wholeheartedly agree, because first place gets you into groups, and as far as I'm aware, second place gets you play-ins. So it's not it's like that seeding difference genuinely makes the difference for your plans in the European Masters. If you ain't beating Fnatic, you've got a whole other hurdle to cross before you can really get European Masters glory under your belt. Guys, we've got one more match. Let's go to a break. We'll dive into it.